is it more for each of us right now? Is it more, what's more prominent, the background or the foreground? The self, the presence, the peace, the awareness? Or is it more the voices? It's like, oh, Jessica, who showed up before anybody else did, it was all by herself. Like, wow, I'm really glad I'm in, and other people are here, that I'm in the right place. Like, Inga, he thinks that about, oh, I've got an hour here with everybody today. Oh, I'm really glad to be here. Like, what are the thoughts that are here on the surface for us? Maybe there's some discomfort. And which is louder, the foreground or the background? The thoughts, feelings, and sensations that we label as parts, or the space that they arise in. And are you able, if you play with foreground, background, is it like sometimes I imagine I'm in a recliner and I just it leans back, I lean back into the background, into the beingness, and just kind of relax back. Like Vinder, look at Vinder. It's like we're so relaxed back into this beingness, whatever that is. Maybe it's presence, peace, relaxation. And then we push the button and the recliner starts going forward and we're going into the foreground. Oh, I'm hearing the voices, hearing the parts. What's it like as we transition from the background to the foreground, into the parts, as we become more intimate with the parts, maybe blended with the parts, as we move forward into the voices? Like, God, this is really silly what Silly Sid's doing right now. I don't have a recliner. Um, and it's, what's it like as we get closer to our voices, or I'm uncomfortable, or gosh, I have such a busy day. Was this the right thing to do today? As we hear the thoughts, or gosh, my back hurts. I don't want to sit here. And then can we just, and maybe it's the recliner, or maybe it's just kind of sinking in, relaxing in again to the beingness, to the self, to the background. Like, does it sense that you get more distant? Do you get more distant from the parts? You get more distant as you go back to beingness, to self? And what changes in the body as we fall back into self? Is there more space here? Is there more openness? Is there more relaxation? And just to kind of complete this our little intro, as you rest back into self presence, whatever quality is here, what's that like? What's it like being Jessica, Inga, Antonio, Sid, Vinder, and Sarah as self, resting here? Is there more peace? Is there okayness? Is there flow? All right, let's just come back together after whatever that is. We just did the little recliner game, and we can just like shake it all off, because here we are. It's the six of us. Like, I close the door, nobody else is coming in. We just get to play together for however long the playing is fun for you, and then, or you have to go someplace else. You just click bye. Um, so it's like we get to, here we are. It's like, did you guys see? What did I say? Did I say party? We're gonna have a party. We're gonna celebrate, or something like that in this in the email. It's like, and what's that like? It's like, are we coming? I mean, could it really be we're just coming together? As it's like, it's Jessica's birthday. Did you know that? Not really. I'm just making it up. But it's like, it's a party. It's a party for our parts. What's that like? If we could really be like this, just a celebration of what's here for all of us, including, it could be like Sarah, even though she's got this big smile, right? Sarah's got like as most of us know, she's so aware of all of these parts of hers. She could be like, yes, I can find joy and okayness and love in the background, but in the foreground said, I've got this part that's just kicking my butt. And it's just grabbing me. It's so blended and blah, blah. I mean, it could be that. And it all gets to be included in our party. So how are we doing? How was that? How's everybody? Who's got something to share? Who wants to go first?
I got something. I got curious today. It's got really blended with a part, and just tiny, tiny, tiny thing that has nothing to do with reality. It's like, well, this person doesn't care, and my part got really, really activated, and it's almost like seeing, well, it's not real, but still has this intense energy. And I got curious, and I don't have the answers. An open question of what is so important about being so angry, because there is something in there that feels really good. There, my partner wanted to be upset and cry and be angry, and it was like, no, I am in this pain. And it at a certain point it got clear, oh, there are these different parts. There's a part that's angry, and there's really, really angry. There's a part that's very sad. There's one that's like, okay, this is what I'm going to do right now. And so there were even like 5, 6, 7 parts. But at the beginning was like, I really want to be angry, and I want to be sad. And I parts like, I'm not gonna let go of this. I know, and it was really good to just to allow myself allow myself was, of course, not self, but there was a part like, oh, okay, it's okay to feel this, and to cry and to be really, really angry. So, but the curiosity is, why is it so important? Like, this is, I really want to be angry. I really almost want to feel sad.
Yeah. Let me pause in this with us, just to include everyone in this fully in this beautiful inquiry. Just for all of us first, as we hear, what are we hearing? What parts are you hearing in Inga? What parts are we hearing or feeling? This one that's angry. That's like, I'm angry. I want to be angry. I want to express this. I mean, this is what's here. The anger part. We hear that in Inga. And then she points to another sad part. There's sadness here too. There was sadness here. And it just wants to be sad. Anger, sad. And then do you also hear, as there's something that's curious about this, trying to make sense of it? It's like, what is it about these parts that they're just grasping, and they want to be angry, they want to be sad. It's like, what is that? What is that voice in her? How do you hear that? Or how do you resonate it? If you find a resonance, a tuning fork in your own system, as Inga speaks of this one that's trying to make sense of it, in you, is it like an understanding part? Is it one that, what is it? One that tries to find harmony, tries to make sense of. So as we notice these 3 parts in Inga, where are you noticing them from? Are they being met from self, from the beingness? Are they being welcomed? Are we able to welcome those? Is the space that we are here as able to welcome those aspects of Inga, whatever you're hearing, whatever parts you're hearing in her? And do you have parts that come up that want to help? That you have parts that are kind of commenting on it? Like, oh, I know that one. I know that part that's just like mine. Or, gosh, I really want to figure that out too. I don't understand that. It's crazy. That's just like my system when anger comes up. Can we welcome all of Inga's parts? And how are you making sense of this, Inga? So the anger, the sadness, and this making sense of what's this like?
Well, I of course I have a sense making part, and that is like has some answers to it, but there is also a real aliveness in this. I mean, gosh, I mean, when I'm angry, I can guarantee you I feel alive, you know. Um, and I don't know how it plays in other systems, but there is something that feels good about feeling so alive, you know. So
So what about that? Can it be enjoyed? Wow, this aliveness. There's so much this anger, this fire, and this and also the sadness, the aliveness and the sadness as well. Like can it be enjoyed? Is your system able to enjoy this? And then for all of us, as Inga describes the anger that's there, the enjoyment, the aliveness and the anger, can you enjoy Inga's anger? I mean, let's say we really invited it out right now. Could it be enjoyed? And then to notice what parts come and might be like protector parts, like, no anger, that's scary, it's not safe. How do you do with that, Inga, with this aliveness?
you know what's right here is a part that says, "Hey, it's okay. I just feel sad. I just want to cry." You know, and I'm not even exactly sure why. It's almost like this part tries to find a story or create a story to, but there's still a sadness almost like in the body that wants to be
Yeah.
expressed.
Is it okay? It's a real big question, right, for us. If there's sadness here, there's the sadness you're describing, and I just want to cry. Is it okay? Does self welcome that? Or do you have parts that just kind of intervene? No, it's not okay. I can't be sad. I can't show that around these people or that's not okay. I don't want that. That's not as much fun as love. What happens?
Yeah, there's a moment of, well, you know, I have also have helper parts who wants to like, hey, how can we just get back to self? You know, and how can we just get back to resting and being and feeling good and peaceful. Um, I don't need to talk about the recliner earlier today, you know, in this session. It was more I don't know if it's a leaning back, it's more like an opening up, you know, the
Mm.
resting in being. And that is certainly okay. There's a little part that's like, "Is it okay to cry here, you know?" Um, yeah.
So how about all of that? How about the theater of Inga right now that we're all hearing? We get this anger. She's talking about this anger part, sadness part, the making sense of part, and then these helper parts. Can all of us, can Inga, can your system welcome all of that? And for all of us, can we welcome those? And then this is the big move I was asking Inga, can there be an enjoyment of it? Can there be
Mm.
an enjoyment of our inner theater, of our parts? Because she's describing there's such aliveness there in the anger, right? And like who wants to miss that aliveness? Can that be included? It's like for all of us, can we welcome? Is there a welcoming? Is there space enough here that all of Inga that she's describing can be welcomed? And then just to pause there for a minute, because this is where this is the game, this is the EIFS game, the real part of it. If we can welcome all of Inga that way, even her anger, and then as that's reflected in our own system, right? Because these parts she's describing, we have them all. We have the anger, the sadness, the making sense of the helper part. Can all of these be welcomed in us? And then to notice the parts whatever comes up and says no, I can't be okay with the sadness and the anger, and we just, can that be included, can that be welcomed, And then perhaps also notice maybe a spiritual achiever that's like, this is what we want to do. This is great what Inga's taking us. We really want to be able to welcome all of that. We want to have the capacity for all of it. That's just another part, the achiever. Okay. Final thoughts on all of this, Inga?
Yeah, I just have a part that really wants to, or there's a longing inside, just for you might call it authenticity, or to, as you said, like to be here and be accepted with all of my parts, like, yeah, I don't want to not only show my smiling side, and not only show certain protectors, but is it okay to be here with my friends and just be as I am, allow myself to cry and be sad.
Now,
Yeah.
as you speak this, can there also be awareness of these precious parts of the anger, of the making sense of the helper parts? Can it all be included? And for all of us, when we have like Inga's, like there's not sure if it's a sadness here, whatever this is, or like an aspiration, a hope that's being felt somatically, and just the beauty of that that's happening in our system. When that happens, can we also be aware of that this is an internal family system, like Sarah's got 70 of them. It's like, can we be aware of our other part, that there are other parts that are here at the same time? What's that like, Inga, when there is like an emotion like this coming up?
Mm. There's also gratitude, for all of you holding space and allowing me to just show this and
Yeah.
not cry. And also, yeah, there is a joy, there's a sweetness in this. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sid.
Thank you. Thank you, Inga. And how about how that opens the space up, right? When Inga shares this and shows that, it's like, wow, is it really safe to include those parts here? Is it really safe? And just to notice when Inga shared, as Inga showed this aspect of her, this part of her, how did you respond? Was there a welcoming of it? Was there including? Was there including of that? And maybe there was a part that came up. There was some discomfort. Perhaps there was some discomfort for someone, for some of us, and just to notice that. Wow. Anything bubbling from this, the beauty that Inga just took us on? Anything bubbling like to be shared, Antonio?
This is why I love this sessions, because seeing Inga and just feeling through my system, through her system, I don't know, like whatever spontaneously emerges. I obviously have the same parts that she was mentioning, and I was there is an aspect that I've been becoming acquainted with lately. Every time that I encounter an inner scene where lots of my parts are triggered and like mutually triggered, I have this impression that almost as if all of their conflicting agendas were adding up to the discomfort of the whole system, or maybe it's some other part that's carrying this discomfort as a burden, just being like the channel for all of these parts and the intensity of their experiences. I feel like there's a part in my system that or maybe it's just like the resulting climate of all this, the passing of all of these energies through my system. But they create a lot of stress and discomfort, but like being able to notice that, to tap into that, I sense like it helps my parts. It feels compassionate to my parts. Like, or I don't know if it's, I don't know if it's a shared experience of different parts, if it's just one single part that maybe it's a spiritual achiever that doesn't want for my system to hold all of this seeming chaos, but these experiences when we are going through them, and I certainly went through my own version of what Inga was sharing as I was listening to her. These are so intense and draining, and it feels like, in my case, my body, it's almost like it needed to stretch open wider than usually, and that is painful, and just noticing that, and acknowledging that, and saying, yeah, makes sense. I see you. That is painful. I feel like it softens. It helps softening the whole. I don't know, like the climate. Like I think of it in terms of climate, like an inner climate, like something is either harsher or a bit lighter. And I noticed that, I noticed the tension venting up as I experience all of this, polarized parts. And then just acknowledging, okay, so this, there's like tension in my body. There's like, I can sense like my throat, just getting tighter, and it's like, yeah, no wonder, like all of these parts, and they're so intense. They're going through this tiny body of mine. So, they're like,
Yes.
it makes sense that these poor guys are like struggling.
Wow. Wow. Is he describing your experience, or did it play different for each of us? Did it play different in Inga and all of us? As Antonio describes, that it's like it's stretching. There's a stretching, opening the more than usual, as we were opening to all that Inga pointed to, and as it opened, as it resonated with where it resonated in us, the stretching. And that Antonio described, there's a spiritual achiever that's like, this might be too much. I don't know if I want to do this. That there was a part that might have gotten uncomfortable. This is the stretching to what Antonio describes as the seeming chaos of all of these parts. There's just a noticing, and parts that get triggered. How are you doing with this? This is a lot. This is a big deal what we're playing with here, because there's another side to this, and maybe we'll get to taste more and more of that as we open and we stretch. And this itself really does welcome. There's a freedom that comes in that, and the parts start to feel that. The parts start to relax when they're like, wow, the sadness it really is welcomed as it is. Let's just notice that first. And then and one other thing with because I'm also curious how Inga's system is doing right now with the sadness, as we felt Inga's sadness. And this is where it gets a little tricky, the line between like classic IFS and healing and compassion with what we're doing with effortless IFS. And again, there's not a right or wrong. They complement each other. We can use both. But with Inga's part, as we could feel the sadness and the crying, right? There was maybe some tears there. There's just the sadness that was there, whatever that emotion was. And we're going to check back with you on this in a moment, Inga. Notice when a part comes like that, Inga describes the part that just wants to express, right? The intensity of the part, if it's the anger or the sadness. And often there's a tipping point that happens here, because then the part is wanting often attention. It's wanting the spotlight on it, right? It wants to be the focus. Like, I'm sad, I'm sad, I'm sad, I'm sad, I'm sad, or I'm angry, damn it, I'm angry. And we're doing something a little different here because we're having it be met by self. We're just having it be met by this beingness, this love that's here. And it's not just Inga's self that's meeting it, it's the five of us. It's all of the self that perhaps she's having an experience of. But at the same time, I'm guessing there's a tension going on in these parts of us when they come up like that. They're like, no, that's not enough. I want to tell myself, I want to talk about what's going on here. I want to be heard. I want attention. This is more of the particle side, like more the classic IFS and the empathy of being met and heard, and our parts that want that individualized attention. And then what seems to happen eventually is there's a tipping point that occurs that they start to feel more this meeting of self, this love that's here, and it becomes even better than the individual attention, this unconditional acceptance that's always here. But there's a sense of both, the wanting of both. So did that play in you, Inga, or is that more, that's how it plays in my system with my parts? And so I might just be projecting.
Yeah, in the beginning, it's often like when I got so blended today, it was about the story. And then it often goes from there into I feel it in my body. And at a certain point, like when I shared, there was just the sensation of sadness left, not so much of the story. I mean, it was great to be able to experience that right here, and it's also more in flow now. And I know it comes and goes in waves. It feels more fluid, like, oh, it's here, and then it subsides and might come up again. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
And just
you.
could you feel, was there tension? Because I was using some art form as you were sharing this, and I would when I said, is there awareness of the other parts at the same time? Could you guys sense maybe a little tension inside of you with that invitation? As Inga's sadness was there and we were all focused on the sadness, my invitation is there also awareness of the other parts? Because the part's not going to like that initially when, like Inga said, when it's in the story, and it just wants, hey, well, what about me? This is not about the other parts. This is about me. And the reason we do that is if it helps bring us back to self, because as we're aware of multiple parts at the same time, because often the sadness will evoke like a healer part, a helper part to come in. Just notice if you could feel the tension there, or maybe the resistance, like, why the hell is Sid asking that question? Anything else, Inga?
Well, I just want to say that's exactly what happened today. So first of all, the part was completely in the story, and the anger and the sadness. And then I realized, and then I was like, oh, it's not one part, there's a sad part, there's an angry part, there's a helper part of trying to find out what to do about this part, and or several try, and it's all of a sudden create a lot of space, like, oh, there's so much more space. Not that it's all gone, but it's of a very different quality. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I'd like to jump back to kind of Antonio as he was sharing his reflections on this. And then we'll see what else is coming up in the group with what Inga and Antonio have shared. Like, Antonio, as you speak of the tension, the chaos, the sense of the climate and the stretching, like, what's it like to be here and have that occur inside of you, to have that happening on the stage with your parts? What's that like? How's it going? Oh, muted.
It's a little bit like I was saying, you know, just like a few days ago, there seems to be like so I can sense the background, what you refer to as the background, you know, the presence is there. And I can sense like there's a contrast, right? Like there's like this intensity and this energy, you know, needing to be stretched in order to be released or something, and that's you know the sensation of it, or that's how I interpret it anyways. I'm not sure if that's what it wants. So there's that tension, and it has a lot of striving energy, like all of that mass of energies seems to have an agenda. I don't know what it is, but it wants something. It's after something.
When you say it's wanting something, it's striving, has an agenda, are you speaking of like the individual parts? You can feel like the parts, and then you feel it as a whole. There's
Exactly.
all of that.
I'm facing the scene. I see it as a scene right now. Like you know, there's a dynamic. I'm talking about you know, the conglomerate of of agendas and parts.
Okay, then let me ask you a classic IFS question. How does your system feel towards that scene? Can we all follow this? Let's see if we can all follow this in our system. Like, as Antonio's describing it as a scene, he's describing the theater of his parts as a scene. Are we able to see that with our system right now, or able to see it with Antonio's system, the sense of the scene, all these parts, the tension, the striving, the agenda, possibly the conflict? See it as a scene. And then as we're aware of the scene, as we're aware of the foreground, these parts, the scene, how do we feel towards that? How does the system feel towards it? Let's just notice what's here in each of us. Notice what parts come up, or if it is it just self. What do you find, Antonio? How does your system feel towards the scene?
So first thing I found was when you popped the question, it was what I felt, what I noticed was a feeling of almost like alienation. I could sense this, and then I realized it's this part that feels other to the rest of the system, almost like a pariah, like an outsider that was somehow like retreating from it all, like, you know. And then I just noticed what is noticing this going on, and it's the only thing it's a witness. It's a non-emotional witness. That's how it feels. It's like a very objective.
Mm.
It doesn't have I don't know. I'm not sensing a loving or rejecting. It's just, you know, it's just like a witness.
You check in with everyone. What did you find about how you feel? How do you feel towards the scene, be it Antonio's scene or the scene that's happening inside of you? And what parts come up? How do you feel? This is a very skillful means in IFS to notice our parts that come up in response. And Antonio's describing in his system, there was a part that was like another, and a pariah, not part of, that we just notice that part. Notice if there's any parts that are of resistance in your system. And then Antonio's also noticing a witness, which I'm guessing is probably a part two, this kind of neutrality of this witness.
It feels like a part, yeah.
Yeah. What comes up in you? And also when we hear this word witness, as we hear that, this is very subtle in this game. The contrast between awareness from a witness, from a part that's a witness, and it's very high in most of the spiritual paths, right? They have the stage of the witness, which is a very advanced place in this, when we're able to see everything from the neutrality of a part. And then the next step is this awareness from self. And it's quite it's a very subtle contrast. Okay. Antonio, anything else before we can open up and see if like Inga, Jessica, Sarah, and Vinder have anything coming up with all of this? What you're sharing.
No, thank you. That's very useful.
Awesome. So just before we open it up, let me just ask everyone, first just a little breath. That was a lot. Like Antonio took us into the depths of this all. Woo! It's like, okay, that was a lot. That was a lot. Whoa, shaking it off. And then, like, how are you? How are you? How are you? Like, what's here for you now? What's here? How are you? What's the foreground? What are the parts? Like, wow, I'm glad we're ready. We're moving on. Like, I was exhausting. That was so much. Like, what parts came up with Antonio? I was like, whoa, like playing with the witness. Whoa, I'm not sure I even understand that. I couldn't really get that. Like, how's that play? Like, what is this all? How are you doing? What parts come up? Or like, okay, Sid, you said this was going to be a party. This is not feeling like a party. Like, what parts are here? It's like, that was like intense and maybe it's helpful, but I don't know if I'm having so much fun. Like what parts are here? And then what are they arising in? What's the beingness? What's the background? Is it connectedness? Is it like a love, a stillness, an awareness, a presence? What's the background? How are we doing? All right. Any comments to that richness that Antonio just took us on? Anything, Vinder, Sarah, Jessica, that's bubbling? And Inga, sorry. What's bubbling? Give me something. Give us something. Give us something. What responses? What's coming up and with from that?
I wouldn't say it's bubbling, but I will share. I lately have been spending time with a part whose experience is being alone. All she knows is being alone. And sometimes when you ask the question about foreground and background, I feel like, Sid, is this a trick question? Because I'm all of it.
Ooh.
So then when Inga was speaking about her parts, I felt how much my parts have longed to just be allowed to feel what they feel and to be as they are. And the joy that comes. So I feel like I'm saying two very contradictory things right now, but in my system, I feel like we are having a party because there's such joy in parts finally getting to be heard and embraced as they are. And what happened is it opened up in me space for more pain. So I've kind of been sitting here just with this part that's just radiating pain. But that my system hasn't always been able to hear.
Just to tell us to take all of this in. How are we doing with what Jessica just shared? And as you're like How are you doing with that? And I just remembered something as I ask you that. Let me just do my little thumbs. I didn't do the thumbs yet, did I? I didn't did it. Let me do my little thumbs thing. That I'm a, I'm a mediator, not a psychotherapist, and it's not the IFS of psychotherapy. If everybody's good, being responsible for the journeys. If I could get a thumbs up, please. And secondly, as always, I'm videoing this, but only my square. However, the audio of yours could be shared. If you're uncomfortable with anything, let me know and we'll make you a co-host. You can click pause, or at the end, you find something you're uncomfortable with, just let me know and I'll delete it. If everybody's good, this might be shared. If I could get a thumbs up, please. All right. And so what's happening with what Jessica shared? What's that like for you? Are we able to, when she speaks of, there's a part I've been being with, and all she knows is being alone. All this part knows is being alone. Can we welcome that? Is there a sense of welcoming that part of Jessica fully into this? Almost like there's this, I guess, this self, the stage, the stage is this huge stage as we welcome everyone's parts to it. You got Inga's parts and Antonio's and now Jessica's parts, and this sweet one that feels like she's just alone. And notice as we hear about that part, what is it? Does it evoke the parts arise in you in response to it? And if so, we notice that in the sense of welcoming it. Then how about this other voice in Jessica's that's just like, Sid, I think you're playing a joke on me when you talk about the background and the foreground. It's like this clarity, this wise voice, this part that's just like, it just kind of knows. It's like, okay, I'll play along. It's like just as we welcome the clarity or just the resonance of self with Jessica, the sense that there are no boundaries to this self. This in Jessica is that resonates with that everything is of self, to include that. And then when we hear Jessica say, my parts just long to feel what they feel. Long to feel what they feel. Like, can you hear? Like, how about that? The aliveness in that is what Inga was talking about. Like this, the passion of the parts, the aliveness, and they just want to feel what they feel. And as we hear that, it's almost, can you feel it? It's almost like a flame, this excitement, this passion, something lights up. And what's it like welcoming that? Is that okay? Or is it too much? Or can that be held here as well? Can that be welcomed? Parts just want to feel what they feel. And for them, this is a party because they are being included. And are we able to include Jessica's parts that way? Can we be the hosts for this party for Jessica's system? Can these parts be included and welcomed just the way they are and enjoyed? Can we enjoy them? It's just like a party. You're hosting a party, you get to enjoy the guests. Can we enjoy them? And then lastly, as she describes, as parts are being, as we are welcoming our parts, as her system is welcoming our parts, that something's happening. There's more space there. And then in that space, there's a feeling of more pain, maybe of more exiles, of all vulnerable parts are being included. Is that scary for us as we hear that there's in this vulnerability, Jessica's vulnerability, these parts that feel pain, that have contraction, that probably aren't feeling joy and happy, that are in pain, that they're being included in the party too, this party that we're hosting? Can they be included as well? And notice if parts come up. If a part comes up, it's a little trepidation, like, oh, I don't know. Is that going to be too much? Is it going to be scary to include that part of Jessica's? And last question for all of us. How intimate are we as the space, as the hosts? How intimate are we with Jessica's parts as we welcome them? And there's, without it right or wrong, you might have an achiever that comes up, oh, I need to be real intimate. No, just to notice that. Right. How's it going, Jessica?
Good.
Tell us more. I just didn't want us to miss any of that. It was so good. I wanted all of that to be so welcomed by our system, and I didn't want anyone to miss any of the gifts of your parts, and also the gifts of things that come up in them, that come up as in us in response to any of that. Tell us more.
I don't know if I have more.
Well, what's it like with the pain? What about that where you stop? It's like, wow, when this opens up, then more pain is felt. No, what's that like? Is it scary? Is there scariness in that?
No, it's I'm gonna have a really hard time putting words to this. I'm gonna say there's a balance. There's the pain, and there's a presence that like makes it safe, makes it okay. But
It's
and
more
there's like
about that. Yeah.
balance
What makes it
between the two.
balance between the pain and the presence that finds a sense of that where there's an okayness?
Mhm.
Can we track that? And how do we track that in our system? Can we find the wisdom in that? This balance between the pain, the contractions in the foreground, and the presence, this beingness, the self in the background. And if it gets out of balance, it's almost like riding a bike thing. If it gets out of balance, can something find that balance again? It's like, whoa, this is a little too much. This pain's getting overwhelming. It's too much. We need to, if it lean back or however to find a little bit, we need more presence. We need more space here. And then as more space opens, like you were saying, it allows more of the pain to come up. But it seems to be this. I don't think we've ever talked about something like this before. The way Jessica's describing this balance. What's your version of that? Does your system have a wisdom like that? Because we got to be careful. Our spiritual achievers will be like, oh no, we're just going into the heart of darkness. We can do this. We can go into the pain. And it's like, wow, it's all out of balance and overwhelm. And then we find me going and grabbing pizza and streaming Netflix for 3 hours. It's like, this is too much. I got to get out of here. What about that balance? Anything else on that, Jessica? I just love it. It's a very new thing. I mean, it really could, I love it.
What came up in my thoughts as you said that was that it's okay for pizza and Netflix to bring back balance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me just send that to everybody because I can say that something felt really good in my system when Jessica said that. It's okay for pizza and Netflix to bring back balance. Right? What's your version? What is your version of pizza and Netflix? What's your version of it, right? And Antonio's like, I got it so clear here what mine is. Like, what's your version of pizza and Netflix when it just becomes too much, right? And then, like, to hear Jessica, like, that it's okay. It's okay to do that, to bring back balance. Can you hear? My sister really got to receive that from her, and because she's she's just this love, and it's like, can you receive it too? And is it like the wisdom of your system as well? Wisdom of self, like it's okay to do pizza and Netflix to bring back balance, whatever your version is, and what's it like if that can be really heard and welcomed? Anything else, Jessica? Okay, then we got it. Let's just go around real quick. What's your version of pizza and Netflix? What's one thing for you on that? Antonio smiled first. So what's yours, Antonio?
Yeah, pizza any day. Yeah, absolutely. Especially with that part. Yes.
And what's your I did you say what's your thing? What's your version? What's your expression? What do you do? Is it the same as mine? Do you like pizza too and streaming or
Yeah, not streaming, but well, yeah, I'll watch YouTube for hours. But pizza is like the best option, but food definitely. Yeah, food.
food? Awesome. Food. What about Inga? What's yours? What's your first one?
Chocolate, coffee, chocolate. It could be anything, it could be, yeah, I agree with YouTube. It could be, but I also have parts that it's one part that's like, okay, I can also think about things like, well, fantasizing, suicidal thoughts, my parts, they are like creative around this. So
Awesome. Awesome.
like, well, we will find something.
Nice. Thank you. Vendor, what's your version? Oops, muted. We can't hear you. There we go.
Okay. Um, I tend to go towards sweets. Um, also, I'll find somebody who would listen to me complain. Um, but over the last 5 days, we were at a resort with my granddaughter. So I could not even eat that much sweets for some reason. Like I wasn't going toward that. But there was a sensation, I felt the sensation of the stress underneath my belly. So, I would just kind of go for do massage for
Oh my. Wouldn't that be nice? Be at the resort instead of me turning on Netflix, I just, oh, massage, please. Nice.
so kind of touch, just kind of massaging that area myself and stuff too. But on the way back, my parts came up. One was anger came up, my granddaughter and I were flying back, and um, I have so many codependent traits, and how she's very strong personality, and um, she was kind of going back and forth. I mean, she was on her iPad the whole time pretty well, and then I touched, my arm touched, or I put my feet. First she said, "Why you took your shoes off?" And I said, "So hot, like," and she didn't say anything. And then my foot touched because she was in my space. I don't know if it touched, it didn't even touch. She said, "Keep your foot to." And I said, "Well, if you want to look at, my foot is on my seat." I felt like a little child. Then her leg, she's very tall, she's 5'10". Her leg was in underneath my seat. I said, "Do you mind if you either, my foot might touch your foot, or you can remove your, I just don't want you to be upset about it because my foot might touch yours." And she just went on and on, and she said, "No wonder people don't like you."
So how about all of this because we've really been practicing today in having our stage, having our place of welcome. It's got in like Antonio, it's been painful for him, the stretching to include it all, to include all of these parts that we've been doing. We got Jessica's aloneness, right? We got the pain that's coming up in her. We've got the Inga sadness, the anger, the making sense of the helper. We've got all of these parts so far, and now as we've been stretching to be aware of all of these, the theater of us, the theater of our parts, then Vendor's adding some more yumminess to this, right? She's adding more yumminess to our theater. And it's like, Antonio, I'm sorry, like the stretching, there's more. There's more here. It's like as we go to vendors, there's, as she was saying, there was the anger there, and we know anger, and Inga was talking about anger. There's anger there. And then there was stress. She was noticing stress in her belly, the stress. And then we're also
Um,
speaking of like a fire, almost like a firefighter part, right? That's what we've been talking about. Like, what do we, but not in a bad way, in a really wonderful way, the ones that get relief for us. And she's describing with the stress in her belly that were ways that she didn't really do chocolate there, but she like massage and touching it, like the sense of the part that came and helped. And then she opened a whole brand new thing for us. And gosh, Antonio, I am sorry, but here it comes. She used the word that I had, that some of my system it has some codependency in it. And so what happens when we have a part that's codependent? And that's just, it's almost like for me, I had this connector part, right? And we all know the connector part, ones that find relief and safety through connection with others or through having a good relation with other people's parts. But with that, there's a sense of including their parts. So as Vendor is here, notice she's talking about her granddaughter who's on the plane with her and her granddaughter's reactions to her. And so this almost like it includes her granddaughter's parts as well. This part of her granddaughter's like, why are you doing this with your foot? Or why are you doing this and that? The granddaughter that's preferring things to be different. And it's like, can that be included as well? Is that absolutely overwhelming, Vendor, to like be with that, or what comes up for you? Because that's a lot, right? And it's such a yumminess that the codependent what you're calling a codependent part, it just opens this field of our humanity in such a rich way. In perhaps it's out of fear, but it still works in including the other person's system intimately, and it's a beautiful thing. How are you doing with this?
there's sadness coming up for me because I felt so disconnected from her in the moment. And there was when she said, "Well, no wonder." Then I said, "I don't care what people think about me." And a few minutes later, she's kept going on, and
So how about
then
that? We don't want to miss this feeling so disconnected, right? What's that like? Because Jessica took it to an extreme for us. She felt she was describing a part that only feels alone. That only feels alone. Let's just see if we can include what Vendor's pointing to here, this disconnection. Like, what's it like to feel this disconnection? You can hear in her voice, there's a sadness in that, maybe this disconnection. What's it like if that is being welcomed? And we welcome the discomfort of disconnection, especially if it's someone that you really love, right? Your granddaughter, the sadness of disconnection. And Vendor, can you find that like can you find that sometimes as like a part or a location, this disconnection, just so that it's fully included as we're including it as well? How are you doing, Vendor?
I'm doing good. I thought, I um, did pretty good because then I needed to go to the washroom because earlier she told me, "Can't you just go to the washroom at night? You were waking me up 5 o'clock in the morning." And I said, "Yeah, I do go to the bathroom before I." Um, she really brought a lot of parts of me, and
Yeah.
and
So
and
what's it like with that? Like, why can't you go to the washroom at a different time instead of the middle of the night? Like, what parts? What for
not even
all of
the
us?
hard.
What,
Um,
well, let me just
I'm
include
never
everybody
doing
in
it
this
right.
one. You're
I
not
can
never
never do
doing
it
never
right,
doing it right. So
and I'm
can
not
we
good enough.
yeah. So can we all
Uh,
find that? Because Vendor, let me just include everybody in this one. When we have someone say something to us, and it might be sharp, it might be, why are you going to the bathroom now? Or it could just be like, why didn't you look at your hair? Or it could just be any kind of silliness thing. It doesn't matter what they say. But if it brings up I can't do it right, or there's something wrong with me. Like those can be a lot to be with when that comes up, right? I just don't want to jump over this, vendor, like what you're pointing to here. Can't do it right, or there's something wrong with me. And for all of us, you don't need to go there in your system. We can just be aware of it. We're not like saying, hey, let's take a deep dive into that and feel it. But just can we include that in vendor's system? The part, there's something wrong with me, can't do it right. Can that be included? Can that be welcomed here? And this is we're stretching. This is a lot. And then vendor, this is being welcomed. There's something wrong with me. I can't do it right. It's being welcomed by the 5 of us in this space. It's being held by the 5 of us. Notice if your system can feel that. Feel the sense of being welcomed, being accepted just the way you are, just like what Jessica was saying. It does feel like a party for her because her parts are being accepted and welcomed just as they are to express themselves. And that's what's happening in your system. But often parts can't feel it, right? They can't feel it. That it's for a lot of my parts still can't feel this. But just to notice if they can feel any of this welcoming. And perhaps for all of us, as we point to those 2 parts, I'm not good enough, something wrong with me, I can't do it right. We all know flavors of that. Can it also, in us, can it feel that there's a welcoming to that they're even included in the party? What do you mean? It's a party. It's not, they're even included in the party. Can't do it right, something wrong with me. What's it like for all of us to have that included? Have all of us included? Vendor, can your system feel this? And what's that like? Can it feel the sense of welcoming and inclusion?
I feel the gratitude, even at a party with all these with parts, I can be accepted. Even I'm not good enough. I'm okay, I'm accepted.
How about that? How about that? How about that? Even if I'm not good enough, I'm accepted. I mean, that might be the line of the whole of our workshop today. And if I'm not good enough, I'm accepted. It's just for all of us, just to receive vendor's gift here for our parts. Even if I'm not good enough, I'm accepted.
We're not doing it right.
Just go slowly with that. Even if I'm not doing it right, I'm accepted. Even if I'm not doing it right, I'm accepted. See if they can feel it. See if your system can feel that. See if your parts, without saying they need to be different than what they are, but just the parts that are hiding, that don't feel good enough, that they can feel what vendor's, how she's leading us today. If I'm not good enough, I'm accepted. That there's acceptance here, and you're not alone in that. You've got 5 of us with you, each of us. 5 of us with you in this shared being, this acceptance, this welcoming. Even if I'm not good enough, I'm accepted. Bender, I kind of, there's something in me that's like we shouldn't go for. I mean, that's such a nice place to kind of hold with your system, like just to let it rest there a little, let to rest in that, to soak in that. Because I'm worried about opening more doors because I don't want to move past it. Like I'm wanting your system to get to receive the gift of this, that it's not just you, it's all of us being with your system, with your parts on our stage is including all these parts and including all of those of yours. I'm even not good enough, even if I can't do it right, I'm accepted. Like to get to feel that, to luxuriate in it, to sink in it, to soak in it. How you doing, vendor?
I'm doing good. Actually, there's part of saying you did quite well, even yesterday. There's that thing you did well yesterday, even though, you know, there's a bit of a reaction, but I still included it,
Yeah.
you know. First, I wasn't going to go for a washroom, but then I said, you know, I need to go to the washroom.
Yeah.
And
So
she,
so let's just include this. Let's just let your system soak in. Oh, wait, Inga, wait, don't go yet. Give us final words, Inga. Give us final words.
I just want to say thank you all. Thank you for all your gifts and for holding the space.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for starting us off in this grand dive
Thank
today,
you.
Inga. So glad you
Thank
came.
you.
Bye. Yeah, so for all of us, just that we get to soak in where Vendor took us in this place of acceptance of our parts. Place of acceptance. It's a party. It's a strange party, isn't it? What a strange party we're in. And so I'm curious. We've I don't think I've heard anything from Sarah today other than maybe a hello. But let's move. Let's see what's going on there. And hey, Sarah, what's going on there?
Um, it brought up a lot in my system. There was sadness, um, the lonely part, and the codependent part. And I just resonated with with everyone's parts, and that's what I love about this. You know, just seeing my parts in everybody else's system. And with Venture here, like the part that feels not good enough. You know, all of these parts, they came up for me, and I felt a little bit overwhelmed for a little bit, but then I had some distance from these parts and started to feel just calm or a sense of ok-ness, and that felt good. Well, a part of me that was very overwhelming. There was a part, the sad part. It really took over for a while, but now I feel like I'm in a good place.
So how about that, Sarah? Like, we don't just for all of us, as this is our Sarah's our finale as far as parts, and so we're just like the stretching of Antonio's system, and for all of us to include them all on the stage. But as we hear Sarah speak of her parts, and especially the one that was when we hear her say there's a part that was very overwhelmed, I'm guessing for all of us there's a curiosity, how our system's doing, what that's like, who is that part? So what's that like, Sarah? The very overwhelmed.
There was a sense of feeling, oh, no other part can be here. I had to take care of this part. Um, um, when I
What
had
was
some distance from it.
Yeah. And how about that there was distance from it? Like, can we see the wisdom of that going back to Jessica's sense of balance? Isn't it lovely that we can have distance from a part that can help us maintain balance with enough self that it doesn't, with this part, with this overwhelmed part? I just want to celebrate the way you were describing that, the sense that there was distance from that part. And then what did you find as you're like, hey, this part like needs attention. It needs to be welcomed. It needs to be cared for. It needs to be seen. What was that like? And you don't need to share more about it because we don't want to overwhelm you. We don't need to focus on it. But I just wanted to fully include that, and it can be from a distance that it's fully included by all of us.
I could care for it from a distance, but I
Yeah.
couldn't care for it when I'm blended with it. So it felt good to know that, oh, I need some distance so I can take care of you. And once it had, some love and it was heard and seen, then it wasn't overwhelming anymore.
Yeah. Yes. And for some of us, when we hear they were caring for it from a distance, there might be a part that is like, an achiever part. It's like, okay, we gotta do something here that has this idea that something needs to change, that it's better if the part is close to us than from a distance. And I just want to ask our systems, would it be okay even if that part was always at a distance, being loved and welcomed? Could that be okay? Just that'll help us
Yeah.
see, it'll help us see any kind of spiritual achiever that's here. Yeah. And Sarah, how's it going? Antonio described it as a scene as he was aware of his parts. And you taught that there was the one that was overwhelmed, that being with from a distance, and then there was sadness, there was loneliness, there was a codependent part. And how's the scene? How's the scene of Sarah? What's the scene like? How's that?
It's interesting for me. It's just a space. I Well, Antonio mentioned he's got like a theater. Or for me, it's just a space where these parts just pop up in space. And I like to think of it like having like a galaxy, like each part is like a planet or a star, and it just pops out in space. And when it's not there anymore, then there's just spaciousness. There's nothingness, and that part is no longer there.
Nice. And what's that like? Just for all of us as we hear about Sarah's spaciousness galaxy, can we all relate to that? It's like can that be included as well for us? And then I had a question when you were speaking of the spaciousness of the space. Is there a flavor of it, or is it more just of nothingness, emptiness, stillness, or is there a flavor? Like, is there like a tenderness, a welcoming, a care, and like, and there's no right or better. It's just interesting as we get to know Sarah's system. Like, what's that space like?
It's just a nothingness. Yeah, a space of nothingness.
See? Yeah. Mm. Anything else? Yeah.
Yeah, when I was trying to tune in to see if there's another part, but yeah, there's just the nothingness, the spaciousness. It's good to be in that space, than being blended with one of the parts.
Why is it?
Oh, it's
It's
definitely
good.
not.
It's good. It's good to be in that place. And just for all of us, when it's good to be in self, why is it good to be in self? Why do we enjoy it? What is it about self that we enjoy? And Sarah's, it's a spaciousness, it's nothingness. And like, what is it for each of us? And what's the enjoyment of that? And so I'm going to ask Sarah that question. Why is it good to be in that space, Sarah?
The peace is just, it's peaceful. While being blended it can be overwhelming, like being blended with a sad part, for instance. When I was with the sad part, there was another part. I feel like it's maybe the sad part, but just on an extreme. I call it the cry baby part. It goes into like a crying episode. And then it's really hard to calm it down. I could sense that cry baby part, you know, starting to take over. Like I really felt this intense need to cry. But once I was just trying to be present with that part and had space from the sadness, the crybaby part didn't take over. So I was relieved, like, oh, thank God that part did not take over.
So here we go. The balance, right? The back to Jessica's balance. It's like, well, that might be too much if it takes over, but we could kind of, wow, there's some space here again. And so there's balance. It's balance with the crybaby part. And as we hear that term, that label for the part, the name for the part, crybaby part, can we also have a sense of seeing the innocence of this crybaby part and love for it, almost like a child that's crying. And so that from self, notice there's no problem with the crying part. There's nothing better than a part, it's a part that's dancing and joyful or a part that's crying. It just welcomes and loves them all. To see if we can find that for all of us, because we all know this part. We all know our own crybaby part. And is it truly, fully welcomed if we were to break down in tears, absolutely break down in tears right now? Would that be as welcomed as if we were just breaking down in laughter? That can be a really hard one for a system. How you doing, Sarah?
Yeah, there's a part that it's not okay with that part. Ashamed part. Yeah, a part that feels shame about being blended with the crybaby part.
Yeah. So yeah. Let me invite everybody into that one. Because I'm guessing we all have a part like that, right? It's not, come on, don't be a crybaby. We've heard people say that to us when we were kids, or even as adults, don't be a crybaby, right? And so we have a protector part that's like ashamed, not okay, it's wrong, I shouldn't do this. And we all find that part in our system. It's not okay with breaking down in tears. And can we see, like, all parts, there are no bad parts, all parts are here to protect us and care for us, how it's being a protector part for us, and how we can just see the innocence of that and welcome that as well. And maybe we listen, and I'm not saying not listen to it. You can listen to it. It's like, hey, pragmatically, when I'm going to cry, I'm going to go and like do it privately in my room, and then I'm just going to break down as a crybaby, or I'm going to do it when I'm on Zoom with my friends here and do it. I'm not going to do it when I'm in certain other environments, because that protector, we have a wise protector that's saying, oh, be careful. How's it going, Sarah?
Yes, I can resonate with that protector part, the shamed part. Well, it's okay with the crybaby part, but on conditions. Like, oh, you can cry in your room, or you can cry in the bathroom, but you can't cry in public. You can cry for 5 minutes, but not for an hour. Like, it has conditions for the crybaby part to be there.
So how about this? And this is, I'm gonna push the edge a little bit with this. As we hear this is shame part, the one that's protecting, and we can see how it's there to serve, and we can see the innocence of it in trying to keep us safe and care for us. And at the same time as we hear that, maybe we can see both of them. Can we see both of them at the same time? The ashamed protector and the crybaby. Can we see the absolute beauty of the crybaby? Can we see the innocence of the crybaby? Can we literally just be in love with the crybaby just for who it is, just the way it is, and welcome it just the way it is? How's that, Sarah? What do you find?
Yes, I can absolutely see the beauty of that part. It's just doing its job, just trying to express all the sadness and to just process it and let it out.
Yeah. And then what about what Inga said at the very beginning? It's like the aliveness of her parts, the aliveness of the anger part. What about the aliveness of the crybaby part? I mean, it just does this. It just expresses, doesn't think about it, just expresses like the aliveness of that. And maybe that's why I'm wanting to open this up for everybody because you've shared so much, Sarah, to see what's bubbling for people with this. But I'm just going to push the edge just a little further with that. Can they be enjoyed? Just as we were talking about enjoying Inga's anger and her sadness, can the crybaby be enjoyed? We don't want to miss this aliveness. We don't want to miss the aliveness in Sarah, the aliveness in Sid when he starts crying. It's like, can that be enjoyed? Final thoughts, Sarah, on gosh, this whole universe you've introduced us to.
Yes, there's a sense of appreciation for this crybaby part, for just processing all of these big feelings and just letting them out and just being alive. And there's also a sense of gratitude for the protector part, the shame that feels that, oh, it's not okay. And just appreciating that it's just trying to protect
Yeah.
and letting them both know that it's okay for both parts to be there.
Nice. Thank you. So how are we all doing with our stage or our galaxy as we welcome all of these parts? Jessica's, Inga's, Antonio's, Vendor's, Sarah's. Can they all be included? Even the crybaby and the protector that says no and feels shame for it. Can they all be welcome and included and enjoyed just and like Sarah was just describing, the enjoy appreciating of them. We include them all. And at the same time, the sense of balance, right? That Jessica's focusing on. Like for some of it's like, whoa, we need some distance from that one. That the one that's overwhelmed, we need distance from that. Well, it can be included, but it's going to be a mile away right now. And it's like, can we find this the playing with the balance in the midst of all of this welcoming? All right, how are we all doing? We got like 8 minutes left, and that was like so much. Jessica.
I have a part that wants to speak for something, which is just that it's other parts that need the distance. That self does not need it.
Sarah, when are you going to start leading groups? I mean, that's the best point. That was so good. That was right on. And I missed it. I wasn't saying it. That was great. How about that?
Thank you.
It's not, yeah, Sarah hears that. It's not self that needs the distance, but how can we have compassion for our parts that need the distance, for our parts that it's all too much, to be close to the overwhelmed part, for example, or even to be close to the crybaby. For some of the parts, it's too much and they need some distance to keep the balance, to keep Jessica's balance. That was, thank you, Jessica. That was awesome. Who else? What else we got?
I think I'm going to grant my pizza part a little treat tonight. My pizza loving part, a little treat. Not immediately. I mean, I'm going to be there. I'll try and. Yeah, I'm just open to, I just feel that I need some. I'd like to share that balance that Jessica shared with us. I think I'm going to bring some of that to this part. I remember my heart just lighting up when she said that. So I think as much as everything else is also like very dear, I think it's pizza night tonight. Thanks to Jessica.
So what, Antonio, just to push the edge a little bit with this, as we hear Antonio wanting to just let the pizza loving part enjoy, it's like, what if the pizza loving, when it starts enjoying, if it starts using it to kind of find distance and space, and even some people might even call it disassociation, because I can relate to it in my system. When my pizza loving part really goes all out, because I'll have Netflix on at the same time, and it'll just like, wow, it really finds peace here. It really is. As it's eating the pizza, and for me watching the Netflix, it finds peace. Can we enjoy that? And we enjoy and appreciate how it's bringing back balance. It's finding balance for us. It's finding a relief, a break. Can that be enjoyed, even if people might label it disassociation, where it takes our system? How are you with that, Antonio? What comes up for you?
I really like where you took it, because as I was listening to you and I was, just almost entering this new scene, anticipating it rather. I think I could actually, through my own enjoyment of that pizza, thanks to the pizza part, maybe some of the other parts that the pizza part is trying to distract me from might actually enjoy some of my joy of that pizza. I don't know if I'm making sense, but maybe through my own experience of that, treat, maybe even they can get a taste of it. So yeah, I think I'll try that tonight.
Yay!
Thank you so much, Sid. I really love that question. If you can enjoy the codependent part. Because for me, whenever that codependent part, the disassociated part takes over, well, it comes up in various forms. Sometimes it's Netflix, sometimes it's ice cream, whatever it is. And then it brings up a lot of shame later, like, oh, I can't believe you just ate all of that ice cream, or I can't believe you just watched Netflix for these many hours. But if you can just enjoy that, that takes away the shameful part. Like, oh, it's okay. Yes, we get to enjoy this. That firefighter is okay to be there. It's okay to do that thing. And it just takes away a lot of the shame and the feeling of, oh, you're bad. But no, you're not. No, you're not. It's okay. You're innocent. You're just doing your part.
Isn't it fun? The idea of like, okay, I think I have some homework from today. It's to like go eat a lot of ice cream and really enjoy it and celebrate what I'm doing and what's happening and eat the pizza and get to whatever happens. So fully welcome that.
Yes. Yes. I'm feeling of yes.
Yeah, wow. And right, the irony is, right? It's like, and it's not like, oh, let's just all become gluttons and well, but we're all going to be like 500 pounds. The irony is that as we fully welcome that, if we just like Jessica was speaking about, as we really welcome all of our parts, and it's really a party for all of them to feel welcomed and safe and appreciated. The the need for these parts that are like, for my parts that are like, get me pizza and Netflix, it decreases, right? Because it's like it's the polarities decrease and it's everything just kind of relaxes. But to get there, we get to like enjoy and fully and go in and just do what Antonio's going to do tonight, right? It's like just be part of it. Um, wow, it is. We're down to a minute, and just to say, like I love the wow to this. To like, could anyone anticipate that this is where we were going to go today? I sure had I should not have, right? It's like the themes that came up and where we went, and it's so rich. And I really do love, and it's and this is kind of, you probably, especially Jessica, who's been doing this with me and co-creating with me for the longest time, that there seems to be something new here with this idea of the stage that welcomes it all, and our doing what Antonio was, the stretching, the capacity. And I'm excited about this. I'm excited about that. And it's just, we're just feeling it out. And so, wow, what fun to me. What fun today. What fun today. Thank you for coming to the party, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.